Good morning. Good morning. It is Thursday morning. Salute everybody. Salute. Well, you know what today is. You know what time it is. Today is the day that I drop my top five SEC rankings for week 7. I'm going to be doing this every week from here on out. And in November, I will start doing the playoff rankings along with the SEC rankings as well. So sit back, relax, get your popcorn ready, because your boy Armondo Black TV is about to reveal his week 7 SEC top 5 rankings. This is the Dog Call. Good morning. Happy Thursday, everyone. Happy Thursday, everyone. I hope everyone is having a blessed and productive Thursday morning. I'm your host, Armondo Black, and this is the Dog Call. Salute, 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 salute. All right, I'm not going to hold you here long. I just wanted to come on here and reveal my top 5 for week 7. It is going to look totally different than what I had last week. Last week is, if you remember, I had Bama at number 1. I had Texas at number 2. I think I had Tennessee at number 3. At number 4, I had, I'm trying to remember, I had Ole Miss. No, I had Mizzou. Yeah, I had Mizzou. But the rankings look totally different. They look totally different. So, and the thing is, I look at losses, who you lost to, and I also look at who you beat. Carries a lot of weight in my rankings. A lot of people, they present their rankings. They're prisoners of the moment, but you cannot erase what a team did the week prior to them probably maybe dropping a game to someone else. So some of you may disagree with my list, but I'm going to explain each one as I'm going to go through, I'm going to reveal the list, and I'm going to go through each one in order. And then I'm going to explain to you why I have each one in its positions. All right. There is my ranking right there. That is my ranking, my SEC ranking for week 7. There it is right there. Number 5, the Alabama Crimson Tide. They're coming off a tough loss against Vanderbilt, but they're still a top 5 team in the SEC in my book. Coming in at number 4 is the Ole Miss Rebels. Yes, they had a tough loss against Kentucky, but it was a very close loss. But they bounced back in impressive fashion. what they did to South Carolina. In my opinion, a very good South Carolina team. They dominated that South Carolina team. They beat the team that beat them. So that right there has to carry a lot of weight there. All right. At number 3, my Georgia Bulldogs. Oh, yes. That Clemson win is looking better and better and better as the week goes on. And they're making me look like a prophet because I told all of you the night on the post-game show that night, I told all of you and I told Clemson fans, this will be the last game that you will lose during the regular season. That they would run the table and go to Charlotte and face, at the time, I said it was either Florida State or Miami, but it looks more and more like they're going to be facing Miami. So that Clemson win and that Kentucky win also. A lot of people are not really talking about that. But remember, Kentucky beat Ole Miss. And Ole Miss was ranked number 1 at the time. They was averaging 600 yards a game on offense until they ran into that Kentucky team. That Kentucky team held them under 200 total yards for the entire game. So a lot of people that were poo-pooing on Georgia about the game we played against Kentucky, where we only beat them by 1 point, turns out that Kentucky team is a hell of a lot better than a lot of people realize. All right, at number 2, the Texas A&M Aggies. Listen, I voiced my opinion about them on the post-game show last Saturday as well. Remember, this team is undefeated in SEC play. They have not lost a game in the SEC. They have one close loss against Notre Dame at home, but they have bounced back. They have been very impressive. In my opinion, right now, currently, this Texas A&M, I will put them up against any team in the SEC right now. Honestly, this Aggies team scares me more than any other team in the SEC for my Georgia Bulldogs. And at number 1, the Texas Longhorns right now, and here's why I put them at number 1. They're undefeated. They're undefeated right now. They are, if I'm not mistaken, they're the only and last remaining undefeated team in the SEC. So rightfully so, they deserve to be number 1. The win against Michigan doesn't really carry a lot of weight with me. Let me just be straight up and honest with why I have them number 1. It's simply because they're undefeated. And I honestly think, in my opinion, they haven't played anyone other than Michigan. They haven't played a legit opponent other than Michigan. Other teams have played multiple great teams, but they seem like the only team that they played that's, legit with legitimacy is Michigan. And that Michigan team already has 2 losses. But Texas gets a chance to show everybody and show the world who they really are when they face Oklahoma this Saturday in the Red River rivalry. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, that game, history shows, rankings goes out the window. When it comes to that Red River rivalry, rankings go completely out the window because you never know what's going to happen in this game. All right. Now, let me go back to number 5 and explain to everyone why I put Alabama at number 5. A lot of people are probably saying, where's Tennessee? Why Tennessee? Tennessee lost to Arkansas. Arkansas is a better team than Vanderbilt. How do we know that? How do we know that? We don't know that. We don't know that because Vanderbilt has not been put it like this. Vanderbilt has the same amount of losses. If I'm not mistaken, I think Vanderbilt only has one loss in the SEC. They only have one loss in the SEC. They lost to Mizzou and they lost to Georgia State. So they have 2 losses. Arkansas has 2 losses. They lost to Texas A&M and they lost to Oklahoma State. They had a huge lead against Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State came back and beat them. Now, that Oklahoma State team that beat Arkansas is looking terrible right now. That team is looking terrible. And but the Aggies look damn good. So now, even though Arkansas is legit, let's take a look at Tennessee's record. Tennessee, their best win is against Oklahoma. In my opinion, they really didn't look impressive in that game. We don't know what would have happened if Oklahoma wouldn't have been hit with so many injuries. Oklahoma was hit with a lot of injuries in that game in the first half, and they still almost pulled it out. NC State is terrible. NC State is terrible. As a matter of fact, if NC State was in the SEC, they would be winless right now. I don't see NC State beating any team in the SEC this season, and I'm including Mississippi State and Florida in that. NC State is garbage. I don't give Tennessee no credit for that win right there. Bama, however, went to Madison, beat Wisconsin, and Wisconsin is coming back pretty strong. They had a blowout win against Purdue last Saturday, and Bama also beat Georgia at home. So, to me, next to Vandy, okay, which I would say Vandy pretty much has the best win of the year out of all the college football teams. Bama may have the second best win because they beat my Georgia Bulldogs. You cannot erase that. You can't take that away from them. That's why I have them at number 5. All right. The reason why I have them behind Ole Miss is because Bama, you lost to Vanderbilt. That was a terrible loss. You lost to Vanderbilt. Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. And I can pretty much guarantee that Kentucky is a better team. Kentucky is a much better team than Vanderbilt. Okay. Now, Ole Miss destroyed a pretty good South Carolina team. All right. But from my eye test right now, if Ole Miss, and I'm just going off of eye test right now, based on their defense and their offense, based on the problems that Bama had with Vandy, Jackson Dart and Ole Miss would present even more problems for that tied defense. That is why I have Ole Miss in front of Bama, because I just actually think Ole Miss right now is the better team than Bama. Okay. At number 3, my Georgia Bulldogs. Okay. They have the toughest schedule so far. It's a gauntlet. The only breathing room they had was against Tennessee Tech, but they opened up the season against Clemson. Then they had to go on the road and play Kentucky. Then they had to go on the road and play Bama, which they barely lost that, narrowly lost that game. And then they came back home and they did something to Auburn that no other team has been able to do this year. They pretty much decisively whipped Auburn, beat Auburn down. Now, if you've been paying attention to Auburn, and some podcasters may say that Auburn is garbage this year. No, they're not. No, they're not. Auburn could have easily came into that game last Saturday undefeated. They lost a close one to Oklahoma. They lost a close one to Arkansas, and they lost a very close one to Cal. So they could have easily been undefeated. Coming into that game. The only loss that they have where it was a decisive loss was to my Georgia Bulldogs. So based on strength of schedule, Georgia is right there in number 3. Now, some people have Georgia higher. Listen, I'm a Dogs fan, but I'm not delusional, okay? Because the 2 teams that are in front of my Georgia Bulldogs are undefeated in the SEC. Texas A&M undefeated in the SEC. Very impressive win against Missouri. Now, people, remember, you can't dismiss it, say, oh, that's Missouri. Remember, Missouri was ranked number 9. Missouri was ranked in the top 10, and they destroyed Missouri 41-7. Destroyed them. I mean, that game was over maybe like 5-10 seconds after the anthem was sung. That's it. That's how that's how much of a butt whooping that Texas A&M Aggies put on those Missouri Tigers. And I had Missouri in my top 5 last week. So now they lost a narrow, close one to Notre Dame. But remember, Notre Dame is ranked. Notre Dame is ranked pretty high. And listen, like I said, it matters who you beat, but it also matters who you lose to. And they lost to a very good Notre Dame team. So Texas A&M Aggies are right there in number 2. Now, they could easily move up because they have a pretty manageable schedule. I think their only biggest threat left is that game on November the 30th with Texas. Because I feel like the Aggies, I think they'll handle LSU when they see them later on this season. And then number 1, like I stated, Texas, they're undefeated. Number 2 team in the nation, number 1 team in the nation. You know, hey, rightfully so. They're right now, they're on top of the mountain. They are on top of the mountain right now. They are the number 1 team in the nation. But I feel like they have not been tested. I just really feel like they haven't been tested yet. And that is why, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. They're going to have to, in order for them to hold on to that number 1 spot, that number 1 ranking, okay, now they may be a win, they'll be able to hold on to the number 1 ranking here in the SEC. But in order for them to hold on to the number 1 ranking in the AP poll, they're going to have to beat Oklahoma down. It can't be no close, narrow win, because if Ohio State looks impressive against Oregon, like I think they're going to do, if they do to Oregon like what I predict and think they're going to do to Oregon, well, Ohio State is going to jump Texas. Just like that. They will jump them. So this is my top 5. Hey, some of you may agree, some of you may disagree. Hey, we all can agree to disagree, but hey, it is what it is. You know, Alabama at number 5. Listen, yes, it was an embarrassing, worst loss, in my opinion, in school history. And I know some people bring up Louisiana Monroe in 2007. Remember, that Bama team was garbage in 2007. They were going through tough times during that time. You know, they were losing the teams that they should. Not only did they lose to Louisiana Monroe that year, they lost to Mississippi State, you know, led by Sylvester Croom. A lot of people don't remember that. Mississippi State beat Bama, and if I'm not mistaken, they beat Bama in Bryant-Denny. If I'm not mistaken, I think they beat them in Bryant-Denny. So that Tide team in 2007, that was Nick Saban's worst team, but that was his first year at Bama. So it took him a good 2 years to start building on that dynasty. But that loss to Vandy was the worst loss, in my opinion, in my lifetime that I've ever seen Bama take. To be ranked number 1, coming off a victory over a number 2 ranked my Georgia Bulldogs, and then the following week lose and get dominated by an unranked Vandy team. That was the most embarrassing and the worst loss that I've ever seen any Tide team take in my lifetime, in my time on this earth. All right. Ole Miss at number 4, rightfully so. They looked so impressive last week against South Carolina. They have a chance to make a statement this weekend. They play LSU this weekend. I look forward to that matchup, and we're going to see what they're working with. We are going to see what they're working with. Lane Kiffin has another chance to win a big game against a tough SEC opponent. Okay, LSU has a victory over South Carolina. They barely beat South Carolina, but hey, they're going to be tested this Saturday. Georgia, they play Mississippi State this weekend, but you know what's coming up on the 19th, that showdown in Austin. So Georgia fans, hey, look, you have a chance to do something great because everything is still in front of you. And the loss to Bama, it's almost like that didn't even happen. Because in everybody's power rankings, SEC power rankings have Georgia in front of Bama. And in the AP poll and the coaches poll, Georgia is in front of Bama. So it's almost like that loss didn't even happen. It was almost like it was just erased, like it never happened. But you gotta take care of business in Austin. You got to take care of business in Austin. Okay, but one game at a time. Let's take care of Mississippi State. Number two, this is the team that I'm most impressed with in the SEC right now. I think they're playing the best football in the SEC right now. The Texas A&M Aggies. That defense is ferocious. That historic class from 2 years ago, these are the guys that you're seeing on the field right now. And you're seeing that you're finding out right now firsthand why that class was the historical number one overall class, recruiting class ever. You're starting to find out. They have a pretty, ladies and gentlemen, they have a very manageable schedule. A very manageable schedule. They have a chance to do something for the first time in school history. At least get to Atlanta. I think the way their schedule is set up, they may be in the playoffs. If they can beat LSU, they'll go into that Texas game on the 30th with only one loss. They'll probably have clinched a playoff spot, no matter what happens in that game, because that game will probably come down to a trip to Atlanta between Texas A&M and Texas. Number one, Texas. They had all of a sudden their schedule looks a hell of a lot tougher than they initially thought. They have Oklahoma Saturday. They have Georgia on the 19th, and on the 30th, those Aggies are going to be waiting for them. So there it is. That's my top 5, ladies and gentlemen. I hope all of you enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Have a wonderful Thursday. Hey, I put a lot of thought into it this week. And listen, hey, this thing could change week to week because we're starting to see the heavy hitters starting to pair up against one another. I'm looking forward to that Red River rivalry game. I'm looking forward to that LSU Ole Miss game. I'm curious to see how Bama's going to look against South Carolina, because South Carolina is going to be angry coming up. Both teams are coming off a loss. So I'm very curious about how both teams are going to be looking. Well, both teams coming off a loss. It's going to be who can make the better adjustments coming off a loss. Texas finally get tested this weekend. Texas A&M, hey, just keep handling your business. Georgia, stay healthy. Go in there, handle your business Saturday against Mississippi State, and get ready for Austin. For you Tennessee fans that feel like maybe I slighted you, hey, look, like I said, the NC State win just carries no weight right now. I know it looked good. It looked good back in early September, but it carries no weight right now, and not with me. NC State is garbage. NC State is one of the worst teams in the ACC right now. And if they were in the SEC, they would go 0-8. There's no doubt in my mind they would go 0-8. It ain't a team in the SEC that NC State could defeat, in my honest opinion. Bama lost to Vanderbilt, but hey, remember, from last time I checked, Vandy only has one SEC loss, and this Vandy team took that one loss to Missouri. They took that Missouri team to the limit. They took them to the limit. Yes, they have a loss against Georgia State. Look, hey, it happens. It happens. You know what I'm saying? I left off a couple of letters, but it happens. So we're not going to penalize them for that. But hey, we'll be back here next Thursday for the SEC Top 5 for Week 8 on Armondo Black TV. Hey, make sure you hit that like button, the subscribe button, share the video, and leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with my list? Do you disagree? Leave a comment in the comment section and let me know. All right. So everyone, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. I'm Armondo Black. Like I always say, take care of yourselves and each other. And one last thing, go dogs. Sick 'em. Woo, 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 woo.